growing up in Romania after the 90s was not easy. I was a Greco-Roman champion of Romania, a Greco-Roman wrestling champion for 10 times, part of the Olympic team. I'm still competing right now. This year, I came third in the world championship. Many times I do this parallel between sport and faith. Out of hundreds of people shouting in a competition, when you are there on the mat, or when you're in the cage, I was trained to only hear my coach's voice. This is what I believe Christ is asking from us. It's a must for us to train ourselves to only hear his voice. And that's possible because I know it from the sport. There is no place where God cannot reach, or Christ will not reach, or is impossible to reach for him. It was on this dirty floor, in this underground, in this basement of the prison. And that's where I believe I met Christ personally. I want to say that loud and clear. All the glory goes to Christ for everything that is good in my life. And I always want to say that the glory belongs to him. One of the powers that Christians have is the power to change the perspective. So my mentality now is a mentality of a ministry guy. I'm a ministry guy. I'm going on a mission. I'm going to preach the gospel, to tell people about Christ. I'm not going to be punished. So my heart is not heavy. My mind, I'm so free. I'm so happy. I can't wait to see what God is going to do, how he's going to use me. This is where my fight is and my team fight is to bring these people back into society, but transformed. I understood that. To follow Christ and to work for him, it's a price to pay. And by his grace, I keep moving forward.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Making Your Life Count. I'm really excited to bring you this next episode with a friend, a new friend, I should say. The story will be very fascinating. But just as a reminder, before we get going, the name of the show is Make Your Life Count. And the reason we call it Make Your Life Count is because that's our motto for Charity Cup. And we believe you make your life count by investing in God and people, which is the only things that last eternally. And so we want to feature those type of stories of people that are investing their life in God and people. And so today's story has a little bit of a different twist than other discussions we've had in the past. This gentleman has quite a history of a lot of accomplishments, and he comes from the sport world, but also from the humanitarian world. He'll tell you a little bit more about it. But without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Ghiță Ignat to the show. Bună, Ghiță.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, same here. Ghiță, we can speak in Romanian or English, whatever you feel comfortable. If you speak in Romanian, we translate it in English. If you speak in English, we try to translate it in Romanian, just so.
It worked both ways for me, so it's
great.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah.
That will change it because back and forth. I'm comfortable with both, but I probably am more comfortable Romanian. But anyway, nice to meet you. Welcome to the show. So from what I've done, some of the research, just from talking to you and meeting you a little bit, you're obviously coming in from a different angle than some of our other guests. You're kind of coming in from the sports angle. But not only that, if you can tell us a little bit about sort of I guess you could say your resume or where things are at with you right now. I know you're wrestling at the world-renowned level. Love to hear about that. And then maybe we can go back a little bit and see where the journey started and how we got here.
Yes. So my name is Gheorghe Ignat, or Ghiță Ignat. I was born in Suceava, Romania. I currently live in Vienna, Austria. I live here because this is where we have the headquarters of Fight for Freedom International. It's a Christian ministry I founded 6 years ago. And I found it because I wanted to really work with people coming from prison, to lead them to Christ, and to help them reintegrate in the society. That was 6 years ago. This ministry that it started to be just something part-time for me, it became now my full-time occupation. It grew so much. We are in 4 countries right now. 2 are behind me in this big map, Romania and Ukraine, where most of our programs are. In Ukraine, we work with orphans, with widows. We're rehabilitating homes that were destroyed by the bombings of the those guys that, let's call them aggressors in this country. We have a great team in Ukraine right now, altogether around 52 employees in Fight for Freedom in these 4 countries. We have an office in US. We have 2 people working out of US, few people here in Vienna, and most in Romania. In Romania, we work with Roma children. We're opening now the second after-school center in the Roma community. It's a great work because we are targeting, in a way, to bring education, sport, Christ into this communities of Roma people, where the children don't have much access to education and sport, to Christ. So most of these children are the future criminals in Romania. We start as a ministry working with prisons, with different prisons in Romania. And while I was going from prison to prison and preach and share my testimony and tell those people that there is a better life than the one they knew before, eventually the one that brought them in prison, I realized that most of the people are coming from the Roma community. So I said, okay, where shall we go? Let's go to the roots of this. So this is how we started looking into developing these Christian after-school centers where these children are coming. They do their homework. They eat a hot meal every day. The sad thing about this is that in those centers that we run right now, there are children that the only meal they eat that day is the one that they receive from Fight for Freedom.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's part of it. Also in Romania, we do have still, after almost 4 years of war in Ukraine, we have an orphanage. We evacuated over 800 children from Ukraine to Romania and keep them safe. Some stayed a few months, some a year and a half. We sheltered them there, feed them, and take care of them. So 800 children plus, like for each child, they were like, for 2 children, they were like 1 mature person sent by the Ukrainian government. So if we evacuated 800 children, there were at least 400 guardians, as we call them. So we had this massive program was to evacuate them. And the reason we did that was because I don't know how much you guys know in US, but in Ukraine, the invaders were conquering the cities and villages, and they were taking away children, tens of thousands of children that nobody knows anything about. The latest news about it is very sad. And I read about a couple of days ago, was saying that the teenagers that they kidnap, they're sending them to North Korea into these military training camps.
Wow.
And yes, and they literally transform them in soldiers so they can feed their future wars. It's crazy that this is happening in our lifetime. That's how I see it. But in another way, I'm grateful to God and honored to be able to serve and be able to be part of what's going on right now in the world. So yeah, this ministry that I'm running right now and I'm working for has a board of people. We have the vice president is actually a United States U.S. citizen. It's a person from Connecticut, very close to us. It's been a donor, and then when the ministry grew, I asked for help. I said, "Would you join the board?" Obviously, this person is highly educated, finished Harvard University twice, and God put next to me. So for the people that are listening to you, to know a little bit about my past, I was a Greco-Roman champion of Romania, a Greco-Roman wrestling champion for 10 times, part of the Olympic team. I'm still competing right now. This year, I came third in the world championship. That's the sport part. Growing up in Romania after the 90s was not easy. There were no money in sports. I shifted easily when I was very young to a dark side of the society, which was the organized crime at that time. I did some bad things. I paid a lot for later in life. That's why, if there are young men or women watching us, eventually, I would say as an advice, if you like, is for them to take the right decisions when they're young or very young. It's so important to take the right decision because it's going to affect you your whole life. You know, I have been in prison. I paid for my mistakes, yet it's not ending there. All your life you're carrying this stigma of being once in your life to be, to be in prison, which I believe is not fair, but it is what it is. And I'm encouraging these people that we work with in the prison outreach program. I always tell them, look, you have to carry it no matter what. I'm running an organization. We feed thousands of people every day. We have an estimate to be reached more than 1 million people with a package of food since the war started, right? And
Wow.
yet, if I have anything to do with an institution of the government or anything, when they look at my document and they look twice at me, I'm still, and I'm going to carry this stigma for the rest of my life, and it's something that I have learned to live with. And it's something that each person who has done a mistake, who has went through prison, has to understand that if you stop and you just look at what people have to say about you, and you only take the bad things that they say about you, and if you look at that, man, you don't want to do anything with your life. In fact, most of the people are going back to prison because the society are rejecting them and marginalize them. This is where my fight is and my team fight is to bring these people back into the society, but transformed. People that a society can trust. People that now they come and get a job and they want to really be a support for the society, right? Even though these people will be transformed and you have the best intention, some people will still look at you and they're going to point the finger on you and say, you are the bad guy. You have been in prison. I can't trust you. It's perfectly fine for me. I learned it the hard way and I accepted it. And it's easier for me because I know who God made me and who God through Christ transformed me and made me to be. I don't care. And part of the sad story of my life, I would say, is that, as I said, ever since I came back from prison, I stopped doing all this work, taking care of my family, and so on. Always the skepticism of the people was so big that, people just purely didn't want to have anything to do with me or didn't want to work or didn't want to do business just because somebody told them that I'm not who I say I am. Or this guy, oh, he's a bad guy, he was involved with organized crime. Oh, now he thinks if he pretends he's a Christian, these Christians are, I'm telling you how people are considering Christians, evangelical Christians in Romania, that, the other people are considering them naive people. Yeah. So that's what is that's the stigma that people coming out of prison have to. Yeah. In Romania, you don't get a job, man. If you came out, you have a criminal record, forget it, that you're gonna work and get a job ever, right? It's so difficult. It's so difficult to get a job. So this is part of my work and my fight is to let the society know that these people exist and these people will come back to the society eventually. And if we don't do anything about to help them, they will commit crimes and they're going to go back to prison. Guess why? Because that's all they know. That's their life. They know they have one bread every day. They have a shower. They have a bed. They accept it. They're not criticized. And some of them will just go back there just because of trying to survive. So now Fight for Freedom in Romania has a halfway house. I think it's the only one in the country. And we're receiving people coming from prison. It's a beautiful work that warms my heart very much. We call them students. They come in for 1 year program and we teach them life skills and everything, financial education. And we treat these people with love and acceptance, and the results are great. Some of the employees we have in Fight for Freedom are ex-convicts or homeless people. They've been through the program and now they're employees in our organization and they're doing a great job. Very proud of them. So I believe that, definitely people can change. Again, we should not have big expectations from the society. It will be very difficult for them to accept us. But we live on this earth and we have to prove that these people are wrong. And the only way to prove them wrong is to do good,
Yeah.
right?
Ghiță, as you're telling me the story, have you ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Mm. No.
So you should watch. It's one of the best movies probably made. I think it won a bunch of awards. But what the story is about this gentleman who eventually gets out of prison when he's well, I think one of the characters in the movie that gets out of prison, and when he gets out of prison, everybody expected to be super excited, but like what happened to him was pretty much what you just said. Eventually, he couldn't live out of prison, and he committed suicide, which was anyway. So the movie is very interesting, and it kind of ties into a little bit what you said. That he was rejected by society, and he didn't know anything better than what he knew there. Anyway, check it out. It's a great movie. It's a good movie.
It's a sad reality, Danny.
It's a sad reality.
And, the society might say, oh, but we do not marginalize this and that. I'm telling you, I am a living proof that if they could, they would just throw me back in prison just because I exist. And when I say this, I really mean what I'm saying. Because, there were some attempts, there is some persecution that followed me after I was released from prison a couple of years ago from the institutions there where I lived in the city I come from in Romania. So I have been like I would say, and it's not too much to say persecuted literally, having criminal cases open against me in a very abusive way. Obviously, I end up winning them in court, but it took me years and pay lawyers and a lot of hassle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reality that I had to go through. I'm not saying everybody is experiencing the same thing, but in the same time, I know that there is a spiritual world. I know that I know what I do have in my heart and what I do have here, and that's what I have here and in my heart is to serve Christ. And I knew it from the first beginning, but I was so not naive, but like very in the beginning, not knowing that it will come to people hating you for no reason. I don't know if that happened to you. Is another topic here. We can have another another podcast at some point
Podcast.
talking about this. Yeah, and people are thinking, no, but if you're a Christian and you do the things in the right way and you love Christ, and people will love you. Yes, but look, I have the scripture here. It says it's totally different about this man. It's different. And it's something that unfortunately I had to experience. Me, my family, we had to go through some very, very tough situations. But yeah, we keep going, man. We know what we called for, and that's what we do. We do help people. There are thousands of people, widows, orphans, and so on, that are eating. They have food to put on their plate every day, because Fight for Freedom, this organization that I founded and I lead by God's grace, exists and it works.
Yeah.
And we do work. Yeah.
Well, Apostle Paul was a prisoner too at one point. So you're in good company in some ways.
Yeah, man. And it's not, and he was very, very, very specific about this. For saying to this guy, I think to Timothy, he says at some point, he says, for each one who wants to live, like truly live righteously in Christ, it won't be hugged, kissed, it will be persecuted.
Yeah.
There is something that had to do with that. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying all the Christians, but there are Christians that they look very good in the community. At the same time, they're compromising a lot. People can't see that, but they're compromising. And I don't want to get into there were a lot of occasions for me to compromise in some ways, just to have peace and to be left alone. And I'm here to live the life that I believe I need to live, and I believe that Christ wants me to live. If that means that I do have to go through some stuff, I will gladly do. We went through together with my whole family. We had to go through some very difficult period of times, and I don't want to really get into it, but I mention this because I think it's important to know for people that still on those days. You get persecuted if you don't go along with some people that they see things this way. If you say just saying that you see things a little bit different, you don't want to go along. It's but there is a price. I understood that. to follow Christ and to work for Him it's a price to pay. And by His grace, as I'm not saying by myself I can do that, but by His grace, whatever it is, I keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
let's go. Yes, sorry to get a
No,
little
no.
bit too much of the
No,
time into
brother.
this. So,
It's all good. Actually, to me, it's very interesting. How in the world did you accomplish so much in your pretty much short life of 42? You said you're 42, but that to me, how in the world did you speak? How did you learn English so well?
no,
That's
I
amazing.
lived in the UK, I lived in Australia, I lived in the United States.
Really? Okay. So you did
So
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
I also talking about accomplishments, but you know what? I need to say that, and I want you to have it in the in the final product of this podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
all these accomplishments and everything that we going to talk through, and all the great things that are happening in between my ministry and everything that I've done ever through sport and everything. All the great things, all the glory goes to Christ for everything that is good in my life. And I always want to say that because I don't want to charge myself with things that don't belong to me. The glory belongs to Him. And I want to say that loud and clear. And if there is anything good in my life and good things are happening, are because of His sacrifice. And I know what I'm talking about. I know myself so well. I wouldn't be able. I'm going to places I'm invited to speak. I was in Netherlands some weeks ago, and there is a film coming out by God's grace. Hopefully it's going to be on one of these platforms, streaming platforms soon. It's called The Crossing, and it's my testimony and the work that Fight for Freedom does. It's done by an
Wow.
American film production company. And I also wrote a book. It's called They Call Me Crazy. It's on Amazon. I published this book with TBN, Trilogy Broadcast Network Publishing House. They have a
Yeah.
publishing house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I published this in 2022. The second one it's it's coming. The second book. First, it's called They Call Me Crazy. Second, it's called He Called Me Son. So there will be people who will read both. They will see why and how what the difference between how people are seeing you when you shift your life to the 180 degrees and what actually God sees in you. The way I experienced it. So once again, if anything good came out of my life, all the glory goes to Christ Jesus. Yeah.
I'm very curious. Maybe if you can go back a little bit of were you born in a Christian family, or how did your brothers and sisters, how
Man,
did that?
I was born in an Orthodox family. My mother was born in a Pentecostal
Mm-hmm.
family.
Okay.
And obviously, when she was 20, she met my father and then she fell in love with him. And then she became an Orthodox to follow him and to have a family. But her mother and, or her relatives, they stayed there. My grandmother prayed a lot. Ever since I was a child, she would put her hands over me, and she prayed over me. But my father was quite against. He's very orthodox even now. We have a lot of theological discussion in the family. And you see people, you love them so much, yet they're so blind. And he's like, "No, how is this even possible? You
Yeah.
cannot see the goodness of God in everything that happened." Even in trials, even in tribulations, even in pains, in bad situations. If you're in love with Christ, there is no way you cannot sense the love of Him and the beauty of Him in all these situations, even the tough situations. More into the good situations in a life of comfort. People should really see Christ and see the love He has for them. Yet, all we can do is just to pray. Some people just can't see it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to God, and it's His grace that I am where I am today, and I do what I do. And I'm not saying that I'm not without a mistake. We all do mistakes, and we do mistakes, and pretty much every day there is something that at the end of the day I'm like, how I could. But then again, we come before the Lord, and we ask for forgiveness, and we ask for wisdom, so next time we do better in the given situation. And so on. So when I was, let's say, around 22 years of age, I was working as a bodyguard in UK. I lived there a couple of years. I had a chance at that time to be invited to a church. I think it was a Baptist church or something, by one guy who was living in the same house with us. We were like 12 big guys, all working as bodyguards.
Bodyguards.
It's a funny story because at that time, to get into Romania, into England, it was difficult. And, I could not get the visa. So somebody helped me with an Italian passport with my picture in it. So that's how I crossed the channel from Europe to UK. And I become, worked there as a bodyguard. We were a bunch of guys, like 12 guys were in the same house, 4 Italians, 3 French, 3 Hungarians, different nationalities. When in fact, this was only if you could check our passports, right? We were like 4 or 5 nationalities. But in fact, we were all from Suceava, and we all knew each other since we were very small. We were like wrestlers, boxers, rugby players. We all gathered there. Yes, all big guys, well trained, and we worked as for different best nightclubs in London at the time, and rich people from the Middle East, from all the countries, they were coming to spend their money in London. We would bodyguard them, right, and work for them. So right there, in between all these big guys, there was this small guy who was a Christian. Him and his wife. We were living in the same place in a big house. So he was calling us to the church every Sunday. Every Sunday, I knew he's gonna come and knock on my door. He will do that every Sunday. We would just make jokes, push him away. Like I would never answer. I always say yes, sometimes no. Always say no, 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 no. At some point, I said, look, you just step on my nerves a lot, and I don't want to say anything bad to you, but look, 10 weeks from now on, don't knock on my door. I'm telling you from now, I don't want to go anywhere. Because the way I would see these guys, the evangelics, the Pentecostals, Pocaiti, I would see them that they brainwashed. Even though in my family, my grandmother and my relatives from my mother's side, they would be right evangelic Christians. I would see them as brainwashed people, that all they know is Jesus here, Jesus there. I was very religious myself into the Orthodox religion, very religious. I would go to the church, I would light candles, I would pay the priest to pray for me so I could clear my conscience and then go back again and do even more stuff. Because now you think, you paid, you are at zero, you can start doing again, sin again, because, that was the mentality. So,
Ghiță, can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
Just real quick, I'm curious. In order to become a bodyguard, obviously, you must have had some skills. So I'm just curious, were you a wrestler like from a really young age, or?
Yeah, I started
Maybe
when I was 12.
you don't have to go into that right now because you're in the middle of the story, but I want to hear, like,
No,
how did you
I
become
would
a
say, I would
bodyguard?
tell you in a few words. When I was 12 years of age, I started practicing Greco-Roman wrestling
Also
in
at 12.
Suceava. Yeah, 12. Yeah. Under the coach called Valerica Gerasim, a very good wrestling coach. He's still my coach. He stood in the corner of me competing this year, the World Championship. I specifically called it because we had a coach from the national team, but I want him, my first coach, to come and coach me and be there. And I want to just exactly like Christ, as many times I do this parallel between sport and Christianity and faith. Out of hundreds of people shouting in a competition, when you are there on the mat, or when you're in the cage, I was trained to only hear my coach's voice. And people are like, no, this is impossible because there are so many people shouting. Sometimes you have thousands. When I was fighting in a cage, you're 10,000, 12,000 people. And they were like shouting, and I could only hear my coach's voice. This is what I believe Christ is asking from us. And such a big noise and such a crazy world we live in. It's a must for us to train ourselves to only hear his voice. And that's possible because I know it from the sport. So it's definitely possible.
Man.
So that's when I started. 12 years of age, I start. 2 years later, less than 2 years, I become the first-time national champion. I was selected in the national team. And then the Olympic team when I was 16, I was one of the, if not the youngest wrestler to be selected in the Olympic team. They're all 21 and above. I was 16. I was a big kid, strong and big kid, 120 kilos, 10 times national champion. I also practiced the Sambo. I don't know if you guys know about this martial art. It's a Russian martial arts, very tough.
Sambo, is that one of the actors? Is that what he practices?
It's what
Steven Seagal. No,
Steven
that's
Seagal,
not
no, that's Kyokushin. You know Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Khabib, yes. Yeah.
Khabib,
Yeah.
here's the champion. Fedor Emelianenko. I don't
Fedor,
know.
I've never heard, but Khabib, you're talking about the guy UFC,
The UFC
champ.
guy. Islam, this guy that is now champion at what, 67 kilos?
Yeah.
Right now he's double champion. He beat the Australians just a couple of weeks ago. They all come from Sambo.
Wow.
It's a very tough sport, very, very tough sport. So I did Sambo. I become 2 times national champion, and I was 3rd in the European Championships for Sambo. So I practiced multiple sports.
Yeah.
Been many years in the national team. Obviously, when I was around 18 years old, I start joining those guys who were part of the organized crime, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
And that was because of the lack of money. You know, we live. Our sport was not paid. You know, I was the national champion, and I was still run in my training sessions. Oh, it was raining outside, I remember, and my shoes were broken. My feet were full of water. That was the conditions that we were, and still we would go outside and fight in international competition and win against, you know, athletes who will be very well prepared, like, you know, and everything. But yeah, when I was 18, I joined these groups of people making easy money. Then around 22 years old, I ended up in London. That was an attempt to change my life, to change a little bit my life. I started working as a bodyguard. I wanted to stay away from crimes and stuff, so I want to really start working. This is where this guy.
Okay, so this guy is at your door
calling
every
me.
Sunday.
This short guy called Vlad. Now, let me tell you a few words about. He was the first one to call me to a church, and I accepted eventually. And I'll tell you the reason why I accepted, because of somebody they invited to preach, which Vlad, the same little guy, gave me his book a couple of months before, and that was a heavyweight boxing champion of Romania called Vasile Tsofan. I don't know if you heard about.
I heard the name, I believe.
Yeah, a great testimony, and a really great.
Real quick, so you're saying this guy every Sunday, like he was that disciplined to knock on the door.
Yeah, every Sunday and every time.
And would get rejected, and he still did it.
Yes.
I find that very fascinating.
And not only rejected, you know, we were making bad jokes and about him, his wife, and he would take it, smiling. Now, this guy, 20 years later, he's the Romanian director for Fight for Freedom. He's my colleague working for the ministry that I founded 6 years ago.
Dude, I got goosebumps. I don't know. You understand? It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, his name is Vlad Albo. He's a Baptist pastor. He lived in UK until 4 or 5 years ago. He moved to Romania. I met him and I said, "Hey, we haven't seen for a long time. I know, hug him and brother." And he's like, "Look, man, I'm looking for, you know, a job in Romania. God brought me back here after 6 months." And I said, "Man, I need somebody in the ministry because we were just renovating a big building that God gave us to build this center for people coming from prison. And I had the workers, but I had my business on the side, so I could not be there. So I said, look, let's just employ you with Fight for Freedom." And he agreed. And right now, you know, he's running the whole organization for the whole country, which, you know, it's a lot of projects and stuff. But he was the person to first, you know, really invite me to the church.
I want to tell you, you know, Billy Graham, right? Everybody heard of Billy Graham. Nobody talks about the guy that invited him to come for Billy Graham to get saved. They talk about Billy Graham, but there was a guy similar to this guy that invited him, and he got rejected at first, but he insisted. Anyway, similar story. I'll leave it at that. I just admire people that, you know, go out on a limb, you know, and anyway, thank you for sharing that. I love so you got invited, eventually accepted. So what happened at the...
When I went to the church, I listened to this big boxing champion guy, boxer who come to Christ in a prison. Very interesting story.
Did you read his book before?
I read
Did
his
you
book
read
a
it?
couple of months before because Vlad gave me his book while in the house. And now the reason I accepted to finally go to him to his church was because he told me, look, the guy that you read the book about, he's coming to share his testimony. And I said, oh, that's something. It was 2005. We didn't have YouTube, all this. Like now it was, you go on social media, you find Vasily Tofan, you listen to him, you stay home. It was not like that back then, right?
Right.
So I said, okay, let me go and see this guy. I was so touched by his testimony right there. But while he was preaching from the pulpit, he was looking around and then he would fix his eyes on me. I was in the middle there for good 5 seconds, and he would raise his voice and put his finger like this. And I'm like, how this guy, does he know me from? Maybe I beat up some of his relatives somewhere and he found me, at some point. I don't
Yeah.
know. Why is it like, when the everything finished, I just wanted to leave as fast as I could the building, jump in my car and go home. But this guy, big guy, the boxer, just in a few steps, he grabbed my shoulder and said, young man, I want to talk to you a little bit. And I'm like, okay. He's like, what sport do you practice? And what are you doing in UK? And da. While I was talking to this big guy, Vlad, the little guy, came and grabbed this big guy by the hand. I said, brother Vasily, if you only knew, like George, we have another 11 at home. And
Really?
tonight, Sunday is the only night that all of them are home, because Sunday all the clubs are shut. But these guys, from Monday to Saturday, they own the streets all night. Could you come to our house so you can share your testimony with them? So the guy accepted it. And that night, he shared his testimony, and not only his testimony, but he opened up this book and shared about his life, and about his life, and about what God did for him, and about who Christ is. And it was very interesting because I was considering myself a Christian, and I was very proud of my Orthodox religion, being from 2,000 years ago, and very traditional and very, but I never knew, and it was a big question mark for me, why Christ had to die on the cross. It was a weakness for me. At that point, I was thinking, I thought he was the Son of God. He was strong. How could he let some people to do all this to him? I was infuriated myself on what he had to go through, right? But my question was like, if you're so strong, why? That's weakness. It could not work in my mind, because everything you had to, if you're strong, you're strong. You rule. So that was the way I was seeing things, right? So this guy that night opened up the eyes of my heart and my mind by explaining what Christ did on the cross, why he chose to do that, why there is a heaven and a hell, and how the eternal life works, and all these things that I heard about many times. They never clicked. They never made, until that night. And I realized that you don't have to be on the front lines. Even though with this war in Ukraine, I've been as close as 800 meters from front lines to share food and scriptures to people. But you don't have to be on the front lines to literally die one day. We all want to die. So the question is, what's next? I was working in London. It's so dangerous. It's a dangerous city. People get killed, shot a lot of times. I realized that night over there that, and the question that I had in my mind was, if I die tonight, what's going to happen with my soul, really? Where am I going to go? Because this guy right here in front of me opened up the Bible and he talked to me from these scriptures. It's so obvious that my soul will have to eventually go somewhere. It's not just by, just a hole in the ground and it's done. And he explained it very, very beautifully, that we are not a body, and it happened to have a soul and a spirit. We actually soul and spirit, and it happened to have a body, smaller, bigger, wider, skinnier. It's just something temporary. is to carry this, what's in this inside. And it makes so much sense to me. And I looked around to those guys who were like 12 big guys, all, most of them tattooed. I'm not, but big guys, and they all very carefully listen. From 9 o'clock in the evening until 4 o'clock in the morning, we hold that guy. We didn't let him go.
Wow.
And he shared and he shared. He's so impressive for me. I think that was the day that God has put the seed in my heart. Obviously, he left. I went back to my businesses. 8 years later, while I was in a prison cell, I cry out to the Lord. And I say, Lord, I read so many testimonies. I have listened to so many testimonies I watched, and it was possible with these guys, but it seems like it's impossible with me. I don't know why, but it looks like it's not working with me. Nothing is happening with me. So I want you to transform my life. That was 8 years from the moment that I first been explained what Christ did and why he did it and what was the result of his sacrifice and everything. So 8 years later, I'm in a basement of a prison, one floor behind the level of and I'm having this revelation. But why I received this revelation? I was there I'm jumping because it's gonna take too long if I'm right.
No worries. No worries.
So after this moment in UK, I moved back to Romania some years later, and then eight years later, I'm in prison there in Romania. And the guardian is calling me and said, he comes and knocks on my cell door. I said, George, you have a visitor. So I said, there's not a visiting day. I said, who can be here? Probably those detectives. They want to question me again, So I said, okay. So I put the tracksuit on me and I'm going out. But this is 8 years later, since the moment that Vasily Tofan, the boxer, shared with me the gospel. And when I go there, I find this guy, the boxer. He saw on TV, I was a public figure in Romania at the time with my sport and everything. So it's been all over the news. I've been arrested. So he saw this on TV and he decided to come and pay me a visit. And he asked me, how long it's been since we met first? I said, 8 years. He said, George, I want to tell you pretty much the same things. The same blood, same Christ, same cross. Nothing has changed in 8 years. Nothing. It has not changed in 2,000 years. Not in 8 years, he said. I'm here to tell you that you have to take a step towards him. And I said, I wish, Vasily, but I have so many things to deal with. After I get released, I have people, they have to pay me money. They don't want to pick up the phone. I have to deal with some stuff that have nothing to do with Christ. Once I'm done with that, I will call you. I will come. We talk and we.
Yeah.
So he's bringing me 2 books. One of them a testimony of a ex-athlete who found Christ in prison. And I'm reading. I'm already very caught up in that book. I did not left the room for hours. I was just there in the bed, pam, 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 page after page after page. And I finally come to the moment when this guy was struggling to understand why the cross. And it was exactly me some years before. Why the cross? Why did he have to suffer? He could not understand. So he was sitting in his cell, in his bed at nighttime, and watching at the window. It was the moon, very bright. And the bars, the window, and the middle bar was like this, and one like this, the most massive bars.
Yeah.
Right? And they form like a cross.
Yeah.
And watching that, it's when God opened up his eyes and he realized that Christ really had to die for him in order for him to live. And this is when, reading that book, I start crying. My eyes start dropping tears. And I didn't cry for many years since I was a kid, really. So I start dropping tears. And I said, what's going on? With all those guys around, you have to play tough, man. I mean, really, prison is not the place you wanna start crying, right?
Right. Absolutely.
You have to show how tough you are, how you can fight anyone. But for me, it really didn't matter. And by God's grace, it I had a history. For me, even if I would cry, on my knees, we wouldn't matter in the prison because of my size and the fighting skills and everything. People, that's the most that people respect there. If you're strong, if you can fight. If you can fight, that's it. You can do things that other can't. Kind of,
Yeah.
everything is acceptable, right? So that's also grace of God, because later on when I had to go and spend more years in prison, and God opened up a door there for me to start the ministry. It helped me. The size and everything, my pastor really helped me to stay alive and not to be beaten up. If I was skinnier, I could probably not preach the gospel as I did. There are some
Yeah.
things that God knows how to put them together too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Man.
that in that room, after reading that book, my tears start coming down my face. And I said, I need to talk to God. It was first time I felt like talking to God, Danny. And I was, where is the only place that I can have some intimacy? And it was the shower area. And I called the guardian to ask them to. Normally, every Saturday, we all gonna go. It was a tiny room, long and tiny, very dark, very, how to call it, very dirty room in that basement, where we only gonna have one day a week where we can take shower. But if you give a little gift to the garden, he will. So I went there. I put on all the showers, and I remember, as big as I am, not kneeling, but really throwing myself on the ground and crying my heart out to him and talking to him and telling him all about. And really, with the pain that I thought he's gonna break my chest out. Like that was the kind of the pain I was dealing with. It was like almost physically. I felt that few more times in my life. It's so how to call it, so deep, this
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
And that's where I believe I met Christ personally. It was on this dirty floor, in this underground, in this basement of the prison. And that's why I tell people, look, there is no place as dark. I mean, there is no place where God cannot reach, or Christ will not reach, or is impossible to reach for him. So that was in Romania. 8 years later, I come to know Christ. I got baptized as soon as I got released from prison. And then after I got baptized, my life changed. I started serving the Lord. And 3 years later, I had a trial going on, court case every month. 3 years later, I had to go to prison to spend 4 years. I went to prison. It's so interesting because I left. I prayed. I said, Lord, have mercy on my children, my wife.
So you were married before
Yeah,
you went to
yeah,
prison?
before. I was married very young.
Okay. So you got married and okay.
Yeah. So I went to prison, and it's so interesting. When I went in 2015, there was 3 years later, when I got sentenced to 4 years. I went and I handed myself in, and they put me in a car with 3 other guys, and they were taking us to the prison from the police station, right? So you have this car with bars, and So I'm looking around, and there are 3 or 4 other guys there, very sad. They were going to be punished. Some of them, one guy 7 years, another 4, another 6.5. And I was looking at those guys, and I was like, they're going to be punished. I'm not going to be punished, actually. For me, going to prison was going to a mission trip, right? Knowing Christ and getting ready for this moment. This is one of the powers that Christians have, is the power to change the perspective. And that's what the Holy Spirit gives you. So I'm going to prison. I'm not going to be punished for my mistakes, for my sin. Christ was already, he paid for that 2,000 years ago. Now, the society, through the law and the judges, and created an opportunity for me to go and share the gospel with so many people that is so difficult to reach otherwise.
Yeah.
So my mentality now is a mentality of a ministry guy. I'm a ministry guy. I'm going on a mission. I'm going to preach the gospel, to tell people about Christ. I'm not going to be punished. So my heart is not heavy. My mind, I'm so free. I'm so happy. I can't wait to see what God is going to do, how he's going to use me. 1 month later in prison, I start a Bible study, first with one guy. We end up being around 25 to 35 guys, 7 days a week, from 4 to 5:30 every single day, 7 days a week. 1.5 hour Bible study, praying. That's where I learned how to preach. because I had to preach to these guys every day. They were waiting for something for me to
Unbelievable.
tell you something. Overall, long story short, we have 3 baptizing sessions.
Huh.
24 of them got baptized in these 3 years while I held this Bible
Awesome.
study in Botoshan prison. Yeah,
So 4 in the morning or in the afternoon? Just curious.
in the afternoon,
Okay.
4 to
I was
5:30 in the afternoon. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. I was thinking
Singing.
they get up at 4 a.m., man. That's even more of a discipline.
No. 4 in the afternoon. Singing,
Wow.
reading the scriptures. Each one of us, couple of verses, all out, and then I would preach. It was good because I tell people sometimes, obviously it's kind of a joke, but it was good. It's good to preach in prison because it's your audition that they have no chance to leave the room, so you have them there, and even if you preach good or preach bad,
There's
you
nowhere
don't
to
have
go,
to.
huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like in the church they don't like it, they're gonna leave. No, there's no place else. They have to listen to you. So, but yeah, then I came back home, and I start the ministry that I'm running right now, Fight for Freedom. That was in 2018, 2019, and yeah, that's how I got to know. How I got to know Christ. Now, Vlad, the guy who invited me to the church, is my colleague in Fight for Freedom. And in the last few weeks, it's very interesting. So I want you to pray for it. Vasily Tofan, this brother, I asked him, and we'll see, because he has a heart for prison ministry. He's been in prison himself, so that's what he does right now. He's preaching the gospel in many prisons in Romania. That's his full-time evangelistic job. But I asked him to come to take over the management of the prison outreach department in between Fight for Freedom and the halfway house. We call it New Beginnings.
Yeah.
So I'm still praying, me and the team, that Vasily is going to join us. And then the team is going to be complete. Those guys that really brought me to Christ. It's just a beautiful way of the Lord doing these things. It's just, it's how God does things. There's so many more things to say and so many more miracles. Danny, I will just tell you a little bit about a miracle. In 2019, I was looking for a piece of land to build this center that I visioned while I was in prison, to build this halfway house. So I'm sharing this with multiple businessmen in Romania. One day, I was about to visit the women's prison in Cluj-Napoca. And the moment I want to leave my phone in the car, because you cannot get in the prison with the phone, just a second. And the phone rings. I'm picking up. Is a businessman from Suceava telling me, "Gheorghe, I heard you're looking for a piece of land. You want to do the ministry?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I have a piece of land, but I also have a building. I want you to look at it." I said, "Okay." Went there, and I found this massive building, 44 studio apartments in a communist student house, built in a farm outside the city. Back in the days, the students would come and pick up potatoes. So there was a big building, dormitory building with bathrooms, but looks like a ruin, but very strong, concrete strong, the structure very strong, but the rest was a ruin. So he's showing me this building. I am stunned. I'm like, wow, right? This is like a year after I got released from prison, right? So I'm looking at this building. I'm like, Lord, it's a great building, but this is so expensive to refurbish. And it's so big, and I don't need so big. Why so big? I only need 5-6 rooms to work with some of these guys. A halfway house, you can't put more than 8-10 guys, because then you have to put guards with guns. If you bring there, 50 or 100 of these guys, So I said, Lord, why so big? Why this big building? This gentleman, the businessman, is asking me, it's okay for what you needed? I look at him and I say, yes. And I remember he looked back to me, and he had tears in his eyes. And I'm like, what's going on? He said, I'm so touched. By what? By the fact that I finally found a person to give this building away for a ministry, something that will serve the kingdom of God. And I'm like, what? He said, when I bought the whole farm 12 years ago, this building, I said, Lord, I give this to you. Send someone to take this building and use it for your glory. And he was more happy to give me this huge building than I was to receive it, because I knew I need so much money to put in to refurbish it. I was a little bit scared myself, but I couldn't say no, right? It was something as a gift.
Absolutely.
Very expensive gift, yeah. So I'm coming back from Ukraine with this first group of children. We put them in. I was on the road for like 2 days, very tired, exhausted. I'm going home. I don't want to see but a bed, and I want to sleep. I want to rest. Everybody, all the team. So we split. Half of the team waited for us with volunteers to help the Ukrainian caretakers to put the children. And we paid $60,000 only in furniture at IKEA. Everything was brand new for these kids. We made that place beautiful. I went there, I slept, I came back the second day. So I'm driving into the yard of this property now that belongs to Five for Freedom. And I'm seeing multiple groups of children playing. You have the older ones there, the little ones here, full of children around, full of people. And I'm looking, and this is when God is answering my question, why so big? And he's saying, that's why so big, George. That's why. It was for these orphans that I gave you the building, not for convicts. And I was like, yes, of course. It just made, everything made sense. All the last 3 years of hard work in preparing this building made sense. Now, almost 4 years later, 3.5 years later, those children are still with us. They came
So
for
they're
6
still in
months.
Romania.
They stay in the same place. All these good works that he is doing, because he is doing, it's not us. It comes together with a lot of opposition, and there is suffering involved. So people who wants to jump in, to join this group of people that God is using, they have to take this in consideration too. Whoever says, it's all just milk and honey and everything is only roses, and it's not true. It's not true. It is. It is true in a way. Because even in these oppositions and all kind of sufferings and all kind of things that are coming, against you while you take this work with Christ, yet by His presence and His involvement in your life and His involvement in everything you do, everything really feels like milk and honey. But it's not. It's a lot of suffering. It's a lot of things you have to really take on and just trust Him and believe Him and move ahead, because otherwise would be it breaks you. There is you can't be strong enough, even if you're 140 kilos and you can bench press 200 kilos. It has nothing to do. Nobody's strong enough to take on these spiritual wars by himself.
Yeah.
You really need Christ. You really need Christ. And I heard this today. It was so interesting. And it was very beautiful said. Somebody said, you only truly love God as much as you love the person you love the least. And he said, it's not difficult to love Christ because he's very lovable. But
Right.
the ultimate test for a Christian comes with a question. Can you love Judas?
Right. The unlovable.
That's where you have to question yourself. Can you love this type of people? That's where our test is sometimes, because people like this bring a lot of pain in our lives, and some of this pain is really this. If it was not for Christ, it can destroy it can destroy you. When somebody very close betrays you and he's doing this in purpose, I don't know, man. It's almost that there is no word for that. You can't really have a word for what's happening in your heart and your mind. But if it happens to be in Christ, then everything, even those things, you receive a purpose and you find a purpose and you have the strength to move forward.
Yeah.
So yes, it's beautiful. I'm not saying to the people that they should not get now involved in ministering or working for the kingdom. Just it's beautiful. It's just I don't know. I would choose this over and over and over again. Working with
Yeah.
him through faith. When the war started, we were 4 people in this ministry, 4 people involved. We had a place for homeless people, a shelter, and the place for people coming from prison. We were 4 people involved when the what's up, son? Happy birthday. Yeah, not yet. Not mine.
Yes.
This is Philip.
Hello.
Hi, Philip. Hey, how are you doing?
My voice.
Good.
He just
Nice
came
to meet
from,
you.
Nice to meet you too.
Just came from school. Hai
Nice.
printat, da?
Very good. Very good.
Cât suntem azi? 5 mâini ziua mică, la 6. Hai, ne vedem acasă. Nu înseamnă. Mai încolo. Mai în 2 zile. Cred că
George,
le-a văzut.
congrats. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, man. Praise God. Praise God. So, Danny, that's what it is. There is so much more. I'm waiting you to come and visit us, man. Come and visit the ministry in Romania and Ukraine. Can bring a group of people, group of youths. If you want to volunteer in the summer, just let me know.
Yeah.
There is so much opportunity on doing that. Maybe you can leave this on the podcast, and other people will write to you, will write to us.
Yeah,
We have a
absolutely.
website. We have an website. It's called www, and they can reach us there. They can find us on Instagram. It's Fight for Freedom Ukraine. Also on Facebook and so on. So if there is anyone who wants to get involved with all these things that
Absolutely.
I said, they're more than
Yeah.
welcome.
Ghiță, you're going to send me, I'll ask you to send me some of the, maybe if possible, your contact info and definitely this information about how to get involved with the organization. And we'll put it in the description so people can reach out to you guys and we encourage them to do
I will
that.
send you a link right now from the one thing that I would like you to do, and also you can definitely leave it here so people can hear about, is whoever would ever say anything about me or my work, and it doesn't match what I said here, feel free to reach out to me. And don't take this gossip and settle in your heart before you're talking to me in anything. Because
Absolutely.
unfortunately, the Christian evangelics, we don't, I mean, at least some, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't go to clubs, don't do all this stuff. But gossiping is like an Olympic sport in Romania. in between, really, if we world champions, if we would be a competition, Romania, and especially my area, Bukovina, will become, it will be the on top, will get
Unfortunately.
bold. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very true. It's very true. People don't check facts. They just take something and they add and it's moving forward. And I understand it's part of the things that you have to deal when you get involved and you really want to do what God is calling you to do. It's part of it, but it's somehow harmed in many ways and in many times harmed the ministry. It doesn't harm me because the kind of people want to harm you, right? But it doesn't hit you. It's actually hitting the work you do and hitting the ministry you do. So if you don't affect me, then who do you affect? You deal with Christ.
Yeah.
In definitive, like in the end, you're really dealing with Him. So it's sad that some Christians, and I have to say this with regret. I have been one of this. Years ago, every time I would hear something, I would be like, wow. And I would just, have you heard that? Oh, somebody told me, and and then you add something, you make it more, right? So that's something that
Yeah.
the people who love Christ should pray about very, very seriously and should stay away from. But yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of friendly fire in the Christian community, right? Where you shoot your own when there's a lot of other enemies you could be dealing with, but instead there's friendly fire, and that's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, stay strong and continue doing the Lord's work. So if I do get a chance, which I do go to Romania quite often, and we used to do a lot of work in Moldova. So actually, Iași and that area was like my second home for a while. So I've been there many times.
Okay.
So Iași, Suceava, I have some friends. But I wanted to ask you, so from a sports standpoint, so this is like an amazing work. How in the world do you have time to
Listen,
become a world champ?
The great stuff, the great part of this is that God has blessed me with a tremendous team. I do have great people I'm working with. And the first few years of the ministry, I was doing everything by myself. So slowly, I understood if I want to grow and I want the ministry to grow, I have to allow people to collaborate, to work with And then right now we do have directors in both countries where we have the programs. We have the team in US who is dealing with donor relationship and all that. We have the headquarters here. The team here is led by me. But now it's so much less work on my shoulders because it's spread across all these good people that God has sent to me, you know. And I do have time by God's grace to take on this training. But being part of the national team and go on to compete in this competition was not for my sake. I have my medals, they there. I didn't need more medals for myself, right? So what I've done, I created a website. I'm gonna send this to you too. And I asked people to follow up I never knew I'm gonna be a medalist, a world championship medalist. But I said, look, I have to lose 23 kilos. That's 50 pounds to make the way in. And I asked people to follow my journey on losing this weight, competing in this world championship. And if they feel to donate for this gym that I want to build for the Roma children, the reason that I competed now in October there was to raise funds and raise awareness on the work we do. So it's a fundraising thing for me. I'm competing this year. I want to go to the US Open. That's one of the reasons I want to compete there, is to raise awareness again and do this and put in light the work that we do. And somehow, and it works. It's beautifully works. Beautifully works. People are paying attention. People want to join you, like, for example, I had this organization, they helped us in the beginning of the war, and then we did not hear from them for a long time, even though we sent them requests and their president saw on my social media I'm doing this, and he said, "You crazy man, you're 42 years old, you have 4 kids, stay home." Like very friendly, he sent this message privately. I'm like, laughing, and I said, "Look, I'm doing this for the Roma children." And he's like, "Really?" He's like, "Man, if you take on so much, I want to join you. I mean, you sacrifice so much by doing this. You know what? We're gonna put the shoulder on it and help you build this gym." So the plan is to build a gym where we build an after school and have a playground there also to build a gym. So these Roma children have the possibility to do professional sports like wrestling and judo.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's the dream. And it's called we call it a sport academy called Gideon, as I said.
Yep.
We have a strong team in Romania. We came third at the nationals with the team. It's the first year we participate. 4 years ago we started this team. We have many medals at the junior level, under 15, under 17, under 20. Very good kids. 2 of them will join the national team. Kids that they never thought they will have the possibility of doing this. Their family have no money to have them playing tennis or doing soccer because they're expensive sports. So they come on to do wrestling because there is no fee. They don't get charged, right?
Do you know there's so many things I wish we, like, you're touching on so many subjects that are dear to my heart, and I don't know, it's like every one of them I want to unpack. So wrestling right now, I have 2 kids. One of them is a boy. I mean, they're both boys, but one of them, he loves to wrestle. Like he's only 5, but he wants to wrestle. So I'm going to show him this video, by the way, because I want him to see what you do. And I don't want to tell him that I had talked to you. But so, George, you're 42.
Yeah.
So, okay, starting this training, you must have been like, were you training all along and this was just natural, or you had to like pretty much start from scratch?
No,
Well, you said you had to lose 50 pounds.
I grew up doing wrestling. So once
you right,
you're doing
I got that.
Since you're kid, it's like bicycle, like walking on a bicycle. It's in it, yeah. And then I switched on MMA. I fought in a cage. My first fight was in Temecula in California, near San Bernardino. I won that fight, and then I won 6 in a row. My dream was to
fight in a UFC, I assume.
Yes, sir. Never made it. Who knows? I'm quite too old. I mean, I'm too old for their standards. But maybe Dana White at some point will let me take on a fight at the heavyweight division to raise some funds for this work with the children in Romania.
I'm flying there to see that fight if it happens, man.
Yeah, pray with me. And search through your connections. Maybe we can reach out to this guy.
Yeah, let's put our brains together, because I think together maybe we can figure something out. I'll tell you a little bit offline. You brought up Roma children, and a friend of mine I just had on the podcast, and you might know him, Sam Bistrian, Roma Boots.
He's my friend, Sammy.
He's your friend, Sam. Okay, so
Yes.
Sam has a lot of connections. We got to talk to Sam.
Yep. Let's see if Dana White. So maybe you take this out in your ears. It will reach to him. I pray. I really admire this guy as a businessman and man of sport for what those guys accomplished is just out of this world. They created this fastest growing sport in the world right now. Like literally, it's UFC is leading this, but obviously it has to have something that sells for them in order to have you in. Right now I'm 6-0, undefeated. Obviously, I have to bring this before the Lord before taking a decision. But if I would ever fight again, I would only fight to raise money for these kids. So, yeah.
I'll tell you also, since we're talking about a little bit of that UFC, I know a lot of people view it from the outside as, and I like watching UFC, FYI, and they view it as maybe as like a more violent sport, but I see the camaraderie that happens between the two fighters. Like they're fighting like to the blood, but then after they hug each other like they're best friends. And I realize this is a professionalism. This is not personal. They respect each other, and I find that very fascinating.
It is, Danny. And, some of my best friends, they become best friends after we really break our noses and bleed there in the cage or in the ring. Or, we've been sparring and just breaking our faces. And then we just become friends and good friends. I'm like really good friends. So sports bring people together, even the violent sports. Now, as I said in the beginning of this podcast, I dropped the fighting thing based on what I believe God has spoke to me. So that's a question mark right there, the fighting thing. It's not something. But if I would ever go back on this and I would have the chance, obviously I would only do it to raise funds and raise awareness for fighters. I'm all in this ministry. I'm all in working on the behalf of the kingdom of Christ. That's I believe I'm called to. So
I was thinking maybe there's some cool tournament or something we can set up through Charity Cup. As you know, we do soccer tournaments and a bunch of different sports for charity. Maybe there's a way we can do something with this. I don't know.
You can organize something even here in Europe, guys. You can come down with the team. We can do something in Vienna, which the churches here, they do have a tournament, multiple tournaments. So we can organize something together through this line of sport to raise funds and help the ministry. Let's just stay in touch, stay connected.
Yeah. George, before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to ask you about this journey back into like shape to win a medal.
Yeah.
So you were already working out, or you had to kind of say, hey, now I'm going to focus on this and to win, and you had to.
I said I came back from. I said this to you, right? I came back from retirement.
Yeah.
The truth is that I never retired. I'm trying to stay in shape. I always trained, even when I was on the road, even in Ukraine. I was looking for a gym, or I'm gonna go and take my 200 push-ups, the sit-ups. Like I'm constantly 4 or 5 times a week training. Even now, I'm gonna have a surgery on my knee. I'm having this shoulder that is been the tendon has been ripped, and I'm gonna have surgeries and all that. I'm trying to put things together before the spring when I start preparing for the World Championship and eventually for this competition, which I very much like to. But if only God opens up the door to be at this US Open, maybe you come to Las Vegas and we can meet there. So I can have at least somebody to support me. At least the Romanian
I think you'll
flag.
have a lot of people. I think you have a lot of people. We can get a lot of people to come. Man, I totally admire you from a lot of different points of view, from the ministry, but from the sports, which is a physical type of discipline, is to me special, because it's one thing to talk to people and get people together, but it's another when your body's involved and you got to get out of bed and go and do that thing. I think that's very powerful, man, and that's a great example for young people discipline,
Yes. Imagine that I had to lose, in 6 weeks, I lost 50 pounds to make the weight for this competition.
Yeah.
It was a difficult thing to do. I had my team behind me. They created a Fight for Freedom. They created a mixed team, Ukraine with Romania, a WhatsApp group. And they were asking me every 2 days, I would have to wait, take a picture and see the progress. And they were training with me, and they were, some of them were just taking 10,000 steps a day. They're supporting. So I have a
That's
great
awesome.
team behind. Yeah, it is awesome.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Do you know what? Billy Graham, and like I said, we're into sports a little bit more on the soccer side of things, but Billy Graham said he believes some of the best evangelists out there is people that are sports professionals, because they're so disciplined. And you know what? I found this to be true, and I'm seeing it here with you. There's just something special about basically sports people, because it takes a special kind of discipline. So congratulations to you, my friend. And I look forward to...
Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, and thank you so much for having me. I really hope I could, we can be an encouragement for some through this podcast.
Absolutely.
I really pray God will speak to some, to others, and so on. I'm praying God will bless you, your children, your family, brother, and the work you do, man. We walk, we keep walking with the same target. That's the kingdom of God. So, you guys there, we here, we have the same target. We want to reach the day that we will be called good servants, and will be invited to join Him for eternity. So
Absolutely.
that's the goal.
I think
That's the goal.
you gave us so many nuggets on so many different levels, and we really appreciate that, and thank you for that. So I hope to call you back maybe after you get to become world champion, or you
Yes, man,
fight in Las Vegas and you beat some
Americans. I
Americans.
actually I beat the American to get the bronze medal. I had to beat the American, and I have so many good American friends. And I said, guys, I had to. I'm sorry. I hope this is not going to make you not wanted to support Fight for Freedom, but wanted to support more. We were just kidding and joking. But
Yeah.
I would love very much to compete there and take on some of these strong American guys.
Did you have a nickname when you were in MMA? I seem to remember.
Yes, it was a Carpathian Bear.
That's what I thought, and I wanted to verify that. Carpathian Bear. Awesome. We're gonna
send you right now this is, ShareDog is the official website for fighters and stuff. I'm also gonna send you now. I'm sending you some links. So when you go time,
thank you.
You look forward.
We're gonna check it out, and we're gonna also try to put some of the stuff to play over. If you have any pictures that are relevant, send them to us. We'd love to kind of overlay them as we
on my
finish.
social media. Let me send you my social media. So check and take whatever picture you think it fits.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For the rest of the viewers, thank you so much for joining us once again. We hope this was a very inspirational talk. We want to thank Ghiță, Ignat, for being with us. Thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your testimony so openly. God bless you, and the beautiful, beautiful work that you guys do. And for the rest, I hope you guys make your life count. Until we see you next time, God bless you.
Yeah,
Talk to
God
you
bless
soon.
you. God bless you.